stone, like alabaster. But, to his surprise, she could speak. And when she spoke, it was like that she was alive again. But as soon as she was silent, again she was as though she was stone. So the king asked the princess, "What is it that has happened to you?" And she said, "One day I was walking through the palace and I went up a stairway, and on the wall there was a mirror with a golden frame. And when I looked into the mirror, my image came forth and forced me to take its place. And so I was turned to stone." With that, the king remembered the threads that he'd carefully placed in his garment. He took them out and threw them in the fire. As soon as they burned, the room changed. It became warm. And the princess herself became alive once again. The king was inspired to say to her, "Now you must ensure that it does not happen again. You must blindfold yourself and stand in front of the mirror and smash it." This she did immediately, because he said, "Unless you do so, that image may take your place once again." Now, when the monarch of that kingdom found that his daughter had resumed her state of animation, he asked the king, "What is the gift? What repayment do you want?" And he asked, of course, for Elijah's violin. This was given to him without any hesitation. And now the king, with his 3 gifts with him, boarded his ship, and surprisingly, even though he'd traveled far distant places, traversed great distances, the journey, because the winds were with him, took him only 7 days. When he came back to his palace, his 2 elder daughters hardly acknowledged him, taking the gifts that he'd given and running off to try them on. But the 3rd daughter embraced him, hugged him, and said how glad she was that he'd returned safely. And then, when she was given the box in which the violin was placed, she took it back to her chamber. When she carefully opened it, she found inside an exquisitely carved instrument. Lying beside it was a bow. She took them out and placed the violin to her throat and drew the bow across the strings, and out poured forth from the violin the sweetest of melodies. But it seemed that the violin was playing itself. What does this story mean to you now in relationship to now being in that place where stillness, absolute stillness, is ever present? and yet the movement of life continues to move through you, around you. And in so doing, that which you say and do, even think, produces that which can only be called, in abstract terms, the Tao, the Dharma, the will of God, or the purpose of life being put into motion. We can see from this story how it works. How does it work for you? What is this absoluteness, this inviolability that goes beyond all the dimensions of existence, and yet is enacted by us at every moment when stillness and movement meet? Who are you? What do you do? It's like that body, isn't it? Is an ant crawling up your leg less poignant than hearing of the death of a loved one?